Mortal Kombat is a franchise of surprising continuity. While the lore and characterization change on a dime, there are aspects of the series' story that surprisingly follow through, even in the wake of the several timeline resets we've seen over the last 30 years. You see plot points continue almost unimpeded despite the resets erasing what came before. So let's go back to the beginning and see if we can untangle this yarn ball of a canon. Welcome to Cannonball. The first instance of this was following the first reset. MK Armageddon began laying the foundation for the story that would be told in MKX. The two armies are gathered by Johnny Cage and Shinnok, who face off in MKX's intro. Many characters were to die in that big battle, to which the Revenant concept would work as a natural follow-up. And even the New Generation concept was supposedly being considered around the time as where things would go after Blaze was slain. That's why, with minimal edits to the roster, time frame, and character banter, MKX works as a completely natural follow-up to Armageddon. But this doesn't just apply to the big picture. Individual character stories can receive this treatment as well. Armageddon's scant few bios explain that Mileena took the throne of Outworld after Onaga's death and deception. She gave it up right away to Shao Kahn, but she displayed an ambition that had been lacking since MK2. MKX then sees her take the throne after Shao's death and attempt to lead Outworld, only to be undermined by usurpers and traitors at every turn, being viewed as unfit for the throne due to her heritage and her actual ability. M1K then reinvents her as Kitana's older sister and the first in line for the throne, random to many fans, but actually a calculated decision by the writers to keep her existing story going. By being first in line, she can take the throne after Sindel dies, but now with a support network to cloak herself in with a sister, a lover, a father and friends to guide her, allowing her to be the empress she never had the chance to be previously. Along those lines, Kitana, being the younger sister and thus remaining a princess, is a downgrade to many of her fans, but this also continues the old stories. In the Midway era, Kitana takes up the role of military leader in Edenia, waging war with Outworld's armies alongside the Shokan. This idea fell by the wayside somewhat, as the second timeline would move her to the Netherrealm armies that she and Liu Kang lead, just never really explored on screen. Her past self then becomes Khan and leads the United Army, only to be undermined by Kronika rewinding time and then by Shao and Sindel. Put her at the head of an army and people will literally follow her into hell. But the way these Outworld races just instantly jump ship to Shao's forces suggests that Aftermath is reinforcing the idea that Kitana isn't really suited to leading a realm. This is theoretically recognised by Liu Kang when he makes Mileena the heir, allowing Kitana to continue as a military general instead, which proves to be the right call with her victory over Shao's uprising and, if they're canon, her part in pushing back the armies of several invaders. Li Mei is one where this applies as well. In the original timeline, she is just a girl from a village that is unfortunate enough to be enslaved by the Deadly Alliance and forced to fight in their little tournament. Li Mei wins, proving her skill as a fighter. Then she aids Bo Rai Cho in leading armies against Onaga's forces, making a name for herself. Skipping past Armageddon, MKX reintroduces her as the representative for her people when they seek refuge in Earthrealm. Anyone could fill this role, but giving it to Li Mei was the perfect choice because it's the logical next step in her journey. Poor unfortunate village girl, hero to the people of Outworld, leader and spokesperson for her people, and finally in M1K, the first constable, the police chief of her hometown that is now a thriving metropolis. Each appearance works as a linear sequence of events that takes her from obscurity to legendary as she continues to fight to protect her people as she always has. Kenshi in M1K is essentially an amalgamation of his classic and MKX incarnations, particularly when it comes to his relationship with Johnny Cage. Midway Kenshi is a lone wolf, using the OIA to get to Outworld while having no interest in actually finding Cyrax. He's only seen as a proper member of the OIA in Sonya's Deadly Alliance ending after she saves his life. Canonically though, Sub-Zero saves him, leading to those two travelling together in Deception and Kenshi eventually returning the favour. In Armageddon, he initially refuses the request to join Johnny's forces of light, but eventually accepts and intends to lead the army himself in Johnny's place, suggesting he holds little respect for the actor. In MKX, the two are now good friends, Johnny mentoring Kenshi's son in the SF, and the two working together for multiple decades. M1K amalgamates the two by having Kenshi as a lone wolf who despises Johnny, but eventually grows to be his best friend after Kenshi saves Johnny's life, almost mirroring how Kenshi used to be in the Midway era. M1K could slot in between Armageddon and MKX and you'd have a complete arc for the two. Another aspect of Kenshi that has evolved with time like this is with his and Takeda's relationship to the Red Dragon. Initially, Kenshi was mortally wounded by Movado to keep the Deadly Alliance safe. Then this led to Kenshi's war with the Red Dragon, which was why he initially turned down Johnny's request, but this war ultimately went nowhere because of the timeline reset. MKX then reimagined this relationship as beginning because he was sent by the SF, who also had beef with the Red Dragon in the Midway era, to infiltrate them. In retaliation, they killed Takeda's mother and tried to kill him. Kenshi then had another fruitless war with them before returning to his son. In both Takahashi's endings, they successfully annihilate the Red Dragon, and this is assumed to be the reason for their absence in MK11. Come M1K, the Red Dragon are in charge of the Yakuza faction the two were part of, leading to Takeda hunting them down by himself and killing at least Mavado. Ermac has two of these, one for his characterization and one for a small part of his character that came to define him. For the latter, King Jared was revealed as being a part of Ermac in his MK9 ending. Then an intro dialogue acknowledged this in MKX. Then M1K fully canonized it and made that the focus of his character. As for the former, Ermac starts out bound to Shao Kahn's will, only to be freed by Kenshi. Lost without a real purpose, he wanders until he meets Liu Kang and helps him save his friends. But that is only a short-term goal. He helps the good guys in Armageddon, but again, it's only for now, not an overarching purpose. MKX has him not escape Shao's hold, but instead remain loyal to Outworld, choosing to make that loyalty to the realm instead of the throne, betraying Mileena and siding with, to him, the superior candidate. M1K then has him fulfill this role as more than a warrior, as an advisor to Mileena, who was previously an artificial being like him. You can picture the arc of him choosing to work towards a better Outworld, first by fighting, then through diplomacy as Jared comes to the forefront and sympathises with his daughter's clone. And finally, we have the reimaginings of Midway games under NetherRealm. MK9 of course retold MK1-3 in a new timeline. MKX stretched MK4 out into a decade-spanning two-parter. So everyone expected MK11 to either see some new unholy alliance take shape, or skip that due to the sorcerers being dead and bring back Onaga instead. So confident were these beliefs that after MK11 sidetracked everything with Chronica and another reset, a lot of fans still hoped to see Onaga brought back as the villain to launch the new era. We didn't get that, but the game did draw heavily from that era for its roster and small pieces of its story. Onaga's undefeatable army is reimagined as an Earthrealm thing at the Ying Fortress, while the final battle sees us face the Deadly Alliance atop a pyramid a la Armageddon. And Deception may feel like it's been left out of this climax, but only if you let it be. The player can choose anyone for the finale, and most would likely say the canonical picks are Liu Kang, Scorpion, Geras, or Raiden. But for me, it's Shang Tsung, the one villain who isn't replaced by an alternate version, the one who was empowered by a deceptive being using the name Damashi, given the power to copy others and draw power from them, all to gather what Damashi needs for his ultimate plan to succeed, only to then turn that power against him and best him at the 11th hour to put right what he was deceived into turning wrong. And if that's not enough for you, Chaos Reigns is an amalgamation of Deception and the MKX comic. The Deception part is that an all-powerful being, who debuted in Deception, is attempting an evil scheme with the Kamidogu, granting new power to someone to use them as a puppet to help facilitate his victory, only for that person to then turn that power against him and defeat him. So either climax works as the long-awaited reimagining of MK's best entry. For the comic, it's Havoc scheming with the Kamidogu and using the other fighters as puppets in his scheme, using alternate timeline versions in place of Possession in M1K, and even giving Scorpion and Reiko notable roles. But it's not just the big things. Even something as small as a non-canon arcade ending can get a follow-up. We had seen several non-canon endings about Liu Kang gaining godly powers prior to his canonical ascension in MK11, or Baraka being propped up as a warrior seeking to elevate his people by joining Kitana in MK11 before retaining that aspiration in M1K under all new circumstances and eventually becoming an aide to Kitana's sister on the throne. And another is how Liu Kang's MK11 ending had him bring together a council of trusted allies to replace the Elder Gods, Kitana, Raiden, and Kung Lao. And who were the three titans he called upon in M1K? Yeah, see? So even when MK inevitably reboots again to get rid of the multiverse everyone hates, expect to see some of these plot lines continue on regardless, like Kenshi's war with the Yakuza, Rain's repentance, Cyrax joining the Shiraidu, or even the Bihan and Sector romance once Sector becomes a man again. Oh wait, MK's popular in Russia, right? Never mind. If you liked this video, why not subscribe and support me on Patreon like these fine people here? If not, then make sure to share it with your enemies so they can suffer along with you.